Welcome to another edition of OdooSME video. My name is Dari Matt Obel. Today I'm going to show you how to use OdooSME to process petty cash transactions, i.e. make payments for little items and even receive cash into the petty cash as float. I'm going to dive right inside by clicking the accounting module. Once we're in the accounting module, we'll land on the dashboard. So this is the dashboard you see anytime you come into the accounting module. So let's just find a petty cash account that we can use here. Okay, so petty cash Lagos, which is a Naira petty cash. Petty cash Port Harcourt, which is a Naira petty cash. So to start processing transactions in this account, I will click New Transactions. So let's start with receiving money. So let's assume that we're receiving money from somewhere. Okay. So the first thing I will do is, what is the reference code or a particular reference? What is the transaction reference? In this field, we will enter some transaction reference, something memorable that will allow us to remember this particular transaction. This is like a form. So if I was making a petty cash request or want to make a submission of how I spent money, this would be like a form. So I could say, for example, request 001. Yeah, let's keep it as simple as that. Request 001. Because I selected petty cash Port Harcourt, this field defaults to petty cash Port Harcourt, but of course other petty cash accounts can be selected. So let's accept that default. This is the date of the transaction. If I change this particular date now, let's say I had done this transaction and it was maybe on a different date, I can always change that date by clicking this cell to bring up the calendar. So let me accept this date because today is the 9th of June, and let's start adding our transactions. So I click add an item. And by the way, even though I'm filling up this form on the 9th of June, there may be several transactions that have different dates that need to go with this submission. So that's why each line item also gives me the flexibility to select a date for the transaction. So let's say this first transaction took place on the 1st of September. And I need a reference for this. Maybe it's this 001 if I want. The partner will be if I am dealing with a particular customer or vendor for this line item. So let's just assume that we're dealing with cash straight away. We're not going through a vendor, we're not going through a customer. The memo field just helps me to remember what this transaction is all about. So I'm going to assume that this is for generator, or let's say 10 liters of diesel for office generator. Remember, we are spending money here. So if I'm paying money out, then this has to be negative, money leaving the system. So 10 liters of diesel will probably be something like I think 1,000, well, let's say 2,000 Naira. The next field talks about amount currency. I don't need this particular field if this amount I am spending is in my default company currency. Remember, I am processing transactions in Naira. So I want to keep these entries in Naira. I don't need to enter an amount currency. If this entry was a dollar denominated transaction, then I can then put the equivalent amount in a different currency in this particular field. I could convert this 2,000 Naira to dollars and then put that amount here and select the USD as the currency I am using for conversion. But because I'm dealing with my company currency, which is the Naira, I don't need these two fields. Right, so I have spent 2,000 Naira on diesel. So let's add another line. This time around, that transaction took place on the 4th. Okay, and is flight ticket to Abuja. So this is a flight ticket to Abuja. And that is costing me, flights are very expensive these days, so that's costing me 30,000. I can also receive money into this particular account. Okay, so if there was a reference, I don't want to do that here because there is also a way to transfer money between cash and bank accounts. Okay, so let's just keep these two entries and make it very simple for us. Once I finish, then I can save. But one other thing that OdooSME allows me to do is, remember, if you look at this, I've only made a submission of the transactions that went out of my petty cash. But OdooSME allows me to link these transactions or post these transactions into my Genera Ledger. They will not report in the accounts unless I am able to link them to account codes in my chart of accounts, so that when the transactions are posted, they end up in the Genera Ledger, and then they then become the basis for preparing your financial statement. So to do that, all you have to do is click on reconcile. Okay, click on reconcile. So I'm going to click on reconcile. Okay, so now on this page, what you find out is I spent 2,000 Naira and I spent it on diesel. I spent 32,000 Naira and I spent it on flight. The system requires me to specify which account I should be booking this transaction to. So you can see it's waiting to know what the counterpart account will be, so that my debit and my credit will balance. I know that there is an account for diesel or office generator. So let's try to look for it. Generator, yeah. So we have an account for generator running costs. So I just find it in this account and I click. So it has already picked that account as my counterpart account, so that my debit credit will match. So you can see it doesn't show that red comment, and this is now ready to reconcile. Okay, if I take that out, then it is not reconciled. It's waiting for a counterpart entry, and it doesn't show the reconcile button. Once I go back here and I select diesel, okay, I think it was something that had to do with generator running costs. Yeah. Once I select generator running costs, then it completes my second leg in this account. So both the debit and the credits now balance, and then it gives me that reconcile button. So I can reconcile this particular entry. So done. I have this next entry to reconcile. I have an idea of what it is. Flight ticket to Abuja probably will be something like travels. If I have, okay, or maybe there's an account that is also called flight. Okay, so I have an account called flight ticket, and I just put it there. So it's going to pick that 30,000 and match my credit with that entry. So I have 30,000 debit, 30,000 credit, and then it's fully reconciled. Now, there are situations where not all of the 30,000 is going to flight ticket. So maybe there was some other expense that was incurred, and so I don't want to take all of the 30,000 to the flight ticket account. One way to do that is to then say, you know what, I am booking, let's say, let me assume that out of that 30,000, 10,000 was used to pay for some levies, to government. So I'm going to choose that, and then instead of the 30,000, I'm going to put 10,000. Okay. So now you can see that my account still does not match. I have accounted for 10,000, which is going to government rates and levies. So I can even change the description here to say levies charged by road safety, for example. Okay, and that's 10,000. But I still have 20,000 that has not been allocated. Okay, so I still have 20,000 that needs to be accounted for so that my debit side and my credit side will balance. So what I will do is I add another operation. Okay, so it's waiting for me to account for the remaining 20,000. So now maybe my ticket can take care of all of that. So I then have something that has to do with flight ticket. Okay, so now my debits agree or match my credit, 30,000, 30,000. So I will then have the reconcile button. Once I click reconcile, bam, so it says congrats, you are done. So the payments that went out of my petty cash have now been correctly matched with my general ledger. They've been posted into my general ledger. So I took that money and I fully accounted for it. So this is how, of course, I can show you where these postings went to. If you go to that petty cash account now, let's go back to the dashboard. So you then see that we're dealing with, I think it was petty cash Port Harcourt. So you can see that I have 32,000 balance, negative balance, because I've paid money out. If you go to your, balance sheet, for example, you should be able to see this particular balance captured or reported in the balance sheet. Okay, and you will see in balance sheet that under my bank and cash, okay, I have 44,000 negative. So what is the breakdown of that? So there is a petty cash Port Harcourt account that has a negative of 32. If you drill that further, I can look into the GL to see the breakdown of that 32. So let's go to the GL, which is the general ledger. And you can see the 10 liters of diesel which was posted out of that account, and those are the reference codes of the transaction. You can also see the next item, which is the flight ticket to Abuja well, you can further drill. So let's drill down. Okay, and you can view even the journals themselves. You can view the bank statement. Same thing for this. If we went into this to check, for example, the journal entry. So let's look at the journal entry. So it shows me clearly there's a debit of 20,000 to flight tickets. There's a debit of 10,000 to government rates and levies. So that is how the money was spent, more or less. Okay, so debits are going to my expense accounts, and then there's a 30,000 cash that came out of our petty cash. Okay, if I go back to my general ledger, I can also quickly, so I just viewed the journal entry, but I can also quickly look at the bank statement. So it takes me right into the bank statement. So this is how the bank statement will look like. Okay, where I will then see what is my starting cash, what is my ending cash, and I can validate once I do a reconciliation of this petty cash account. We will talk about how to do cash and back reconciliation in another video. So this is how you post payments out of petty cash. Another video will talk about how you transfer cash between cash accounts and then between bank accounts. If you have any issues regarding this video or any of the videos that we have shown in our series, then simply go to www.OdooSME.com and then click on our chat widget. We always have our support team online ready to help. Start chatting with them, ask all your questions, and definitely they will try to attend to them as much as possible. Thank you very much for your time, and see you in the next video.